my beautiful friends. My name is Kim, and I hope you're having a fabulous day. If you are interested in true crime stories like I am, I hope that you consider hitting that subscribe button. But either way, thanks for being here. And before we go anywhere with today's case, I really wanted to thank all of you for being here with me today and for all the love and support you've shown me for what I do here. It's always so nice to read your wonderful comments, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate you, and it means so much to me. I read them all, and it's just overwhelming kindness, and I don't think I say it enough how much I really appreciate it. And this is not me love bombing you. It just really does mean a lot to me. So, but enough of that mushy stuff. Let's talk about today's case. First off, let's start with the location, because it actually has a big role to play in how all of this folds out. And I think it's going to help explain a few things of why certain people have reacted the way that they have in this case. So today we're heading to Love County in Oklahoma. Have I done a case in Oklahoma? I am not sure, but for those of you joining us from overseas, don't be upset if you don't know exactly where we're talking about, because Love County is one of those real small towns that I don't even know about until I heard this case. It's a mixture of cultures with native tribes and tribal lands scattered around it, but the official population, according to the census done in, this was a while ago, 2010, was just under 9,500 people. So even if somehow they managed to double the population since then, it's still not, a booming city. And today our case centers around 4 of those people living and working in Love County. The first one being Molly Miller. Molly is our 17-year-old, and she at the time is in high school. She's a junior. This was July of 2013. She was an athletic, energetic girl who was really good at team sports, and even at the young age, she had a pretty solid idea of what she wanted to do in her life. She was in vocational school at the time, on her way to studying to become a nurse, and even had a part-time job to help keep herself and her family afloat. But she was still a teenager, and things weren't always so picture perfect behind closed doors. I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but I do know that Molly would sometimes run away from home and spend a few days with friends. And unfortunately for Molly and her family, her friends weren't always the best people. Just the week before, in the summer of 2013, Molly met the then 21-year-old Colton Haynes. And he was, a bit of a bad guy, a bit of a bad boy, mysterious, reckless. When you're 17, that's all the rage. He had, the cool tattoos. I love how heated you guys get in the comments when I mention tattoos. So, I love tattoos, but he had one that read "Ride or Die" across his chest. And he had the dark hair with the blue eyes and had the track record. I'm going to talk about some bad things that Colton did, but from interviews given by the friends, he was said to be a stand-up guy. He made some bad choices, but all in all, he was kind and caring guy when it came to his family and friends. Now, keep that in mind. Now, just 2 years before, he had been charged with endeavoring to manufacture meth, and during that ordeal, he admitted that he used both that and the green. He admitted that he was involved in both taking and being involved in that world as a teenager, but his sister later stated that whenever he was using, he would stay away from the home. This was especially true now that he had a young son, but Cole always kept in touch and let people know where he was so his family wouldn't worry about him. For the drug charges, Colt was given the opportunity to take part in a program instead of having to serve time in jail for his crimes. But he actually did so poorly in the program that he had a probation officer ask for Colt's case to be sent back to court. A warrant was issued for Colt's arrest on July 18, 2013. But by then, Colt was already under investigation for a totally different reason. And I already know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking now that these two have met, Colt's about to take Molly on a whirlwind adventure that's either going to get her in a lifetime of trouble or possibly get her killed. But, and it's quite a big but here, on the evening of July 7, 2013, Molly was in a car with Colton Haynes and one other guy, James Con Nip, aka James Catnip. Actually, everybody called him Con, but I think Catnip is better. Well, who's this Catnip and why do we care? I hear you asking. Well, Colt was a new friend of Molly, but Molly had known James Catnip for a long time, and so had Colt. It's a small town, everybody knows everybody. In fact, the mother of Colton's son was Catnip's ex-girlfriend. And Catnip, well, was one of those guys, okay, I'll stop calling him Catnip now, but Con is what most people call him. Con was obnoxious and entitled. His cousin was the sheriff of the town, and he was used to getting away with everything. He absolutely never experienced consequences. I'm pretty sure it's not too difficult to figure out why a young 17-year-old girl would think it was great fun to hang out with guys like these ones. But when Molly was seen in the car that evening, I don't think she had any idea of what was headed her way. Con was driving that night and he pulled into a convenience store where all were spotted. A Wilson police car with 2 officers in it noticed them, and I can't say that I understood why they thought it was a good idea, but apparently Con did, and he turned the wheel and stepped on the gas as hard as he could to do a donut, or did some sort of a fast drift to kick rocks at the police car to try to get the officers to start a car chase with them, and that is actually what the officers did. Now, do you understand my opinion that he is obnoxious and entitled? They're at a store, they're getting, I don't know what, they're teenagers, but he was 21, so maybe he was buying some beer, and he spits rocks. That's how much respect he has. But all of this could have been avoided. He's just being a little a-hole. But anyways, this was at 10:30-ish time. Con tore through the back roads of Love County, Oklahoma. That he knew these roads really well. Sometimes it was dark as they passed by farm fields and other remote areas, sometimes as fast as 120 miles per hour, meaning any mistake would probably be a fatal one. The police car chased them for quite a while before the officers lost sight of them, and this is where everything shifts to depend on Con's version of events, because according to Con, once the police car had lost sight of them, he pulled over and parked the car. That's what I'd do too, especially if I just finished a high-speed chase and I didn't know if I was still being followed. I mean, wouldn't you? Pull over? I don't know. But anyway, Con said that he pulled over and he let Molly and Colt out, not really given a reason for why they got out of the car or why they split up, and Con continued driving along the road, and Molly and Colt went off running into the woods in the middle of the night. I guess it could be because Con had gone too far and neither Molly or Colt wanted to get caught with him if the police did catch up with them, but Con didn't say that. That's just me trying to figure out why 2 people would leave the car in the middle of a chase and run into the dark woods in the middle of nowhere and leave the driver to drive off. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me. All we know is that Con said he dropped Molly and Colt off by the side of the road and they took off one way and he went the other. Now, Catnip, your story doesn't make sense, buddy. Please help us make sense here. Make it make sense. But he never will, and I'm sorry, but let me continue. Just before 1 a.m., okay, Molly called 911, but the call only lasted 5 seconds, and Molly didn't say anything during it. The dispatcher called Molly back, but Molly didn't answer. But strangely enough, this was only the beginning of calls that would come in from both Molly and Colt. Was Molly trying to get help, but wasn't able to talk to them? Did someone stop her? It's all very strange. Colt then made several calls to his friends telling them that he was lying somewhere in a ditch or dried up creek bed near Long Hollow Road, which was where Con later said he dropped them off. But Colt was in bad shape. Colt said that he'd badly broken his ankle and he was coughing up blood, and he asked his friends if they would come and get him. You know, he's distressed. He's talking about major internal damage to be spitting up blood. Was there a fight? Did he get hit by a car? Did he fall out of a tree? Did he jump out of a moving vehicle? I have so many questions that will never be answered. I just don't know how he got so banged up. I don't know why he didn't call 911 either. Maybe he was scared, but his friends definitely had his back that night. They drove along the road in the middle of the night, still on the phone with Colt and trying to find him, but it was dark and there were trees everywhere and it was really difficult to see anything. Colt also couldn't really describe where he was because he couldn't get out of this ditch. So then they came up with the idea to honk the horn every now and again, and if Colt could hear them, then they'd know that he was close by and they'd stop the car and continue looking on foot for him. They were really trying, but Colt couldn't really give them a good explanation of where they were. Colt never heard anything, and he wasn't the only one who was in that woods. Molly also called her friends and some of her relatives. Molly also kept calling through the night, and the last phone call actually came through at about 10 a.m. 10 a.m. on the morning of the 8th. Before then, she told her friends that she needed help and she was somewhere out in a field. And then she asked people to come out and get her, but no one could figure out where she was either. Data from the last phone call put Molly on the corner of 2 roads and not in the middle of a field. And the identity of the person she called has never been released to the public. Who did she call? Did she call a friend? Did she call her mom? Who was the last person she talked to? We don't know. Maybe with time we'll find out who was and what they have to do with this case. But for now, we have at least 2 people out alongside of the road, 2 search parties looking for them, but no one of those groups found the other until both Colt and Molly's families realized that there was maybe something else going on, and they reported them as missing to the police. They were gone. 10 o'clock, 0 communication, nobody knows where they're at, 0 blank, lights out. Only then did the police actually get involved because they'd never actually gone out to the location, even though Molly had made the call, the phone call, the 911 call, and then not answered her phone when the dispatcher called her back. But the police showing up at the scene changed absolutely nothing. No one found either Molly or Colt, and the last person to see either of them alive was James Connipp, and he had so many strings to pull. Investigators couldn't get near him, and they later admitted that Con's cousin, Sheriff Joe Russell, had actively pushed investigators away from Con and told them not to investigate. 2 people are gone missing, and the sheriff is standing in the way of the investigation to try to find them. And the last person to see him alive is not talking. What does that sound like to you? But not even Joe Russell could do anything with the car Con had been driving that day. It was found 2 weeks later. It was in a field along Long Hollow Road, and it had been totally wrecked. It had gone through several barbed wire fences, and the undercarriage of the car had been severely damaged from driving through several ditches. But here's the thing, it gets messy again. Even with the car, investigators still had nothing to tie Con to the disappearances of Molly and Colton. But they could charge him with joyriding and endangering people's lives for the stunt he pulled with the high-speed chase. Con turned himself in to the police the beginning of 2014, claiming or pleading guilty that he had done everything else, but he had no idea what happened to Molly and Colt or where they were now, and investigators still couldn't tie anything to him. There was no trace of either Molly or Colt. I mean, nothing to show if they were even alive or dead. So they couldn't charge Con with their murders. You know, they could be alive. There's just nothing. Knowing that, investigators stuck to the endangering life charges, and Con got 10 years in prison and 10 years probation. In all of this time, he's given the investigators nothing to work with. But Molly Miller's disappearance was changed to a homicide investigation July of 2014. A reward of $45,000 is still available for any information that could lead to the discovery of either of the missing people. And to count our blessing, Con's cousin, Sheriff Joe Russell, had to resign in 2016 over corruption charges. We cannot be surprised by this. This whole family, oh, just terrible, terrible people.
Sheriff Russell was arrested on some criminal charges, and he's accused of basically letting his son, who has been convicted of meth dealing, deal meth, essentially out of the house. Not only that, used the sheriff's vehicle, which is outfitted with lights and a police scanner, to go deal meth.
And according to arrest records, the sheriff's cousin, Connipp, is part of that.
Basically, he had a previous charge for possession of controlled dangerous substance.
There are even allegations of the sheriff bringing young girls in bikinis back to his house, supplying drugs, and getting them to strip.
He apparently was letting his son deal meth right out of the family home. So that'll tell you just how untouchable he really thought he was. Con is still a suspect in the case. He was released from prison in 2018, and Molly's family is still convinced that he knows more than he's telling anyone. Molly's aunt, Paula Miller Fielder, claimed that she went to his house, she went to Catnip's house to get some answers. She said in the later interview that, quote, I asked Con if Molly and Colt were okay when he left them in the woods. And he said, quote, I don't know what you're talking about. I was with Molly and Colt. I didn't leave them in the woods, unquote. She continues, I finally said, Con, I know she's dead. Please just tell us where she's at. But Con continued to deny everything. Paula did say that Con got a little teary-eyed when she told him that she knew that Molly was dead, but he still wouldn't tell Paula what happened to her. No offense to Paula, but in my opinion, what she saw was somebody acting like he had a conscience. You know, he shed a single tear and never gave any information, no additional information whatsoever. There was too much credit given to this terrible person. Why wouldn't he just say what happened? It's because he's trying to get away with something. And other people Some people like us who are still on the search for answers have had a real hard time getting anything out of Con and even the community. You'd think they'd be pointing fingers and coming up with theories, especially when their former sheriff got into as much trouble as he did, but the community has closed ranks. I can't say it's because they're trying to protect the wrong people, but it's more like they're trying to protect themselves. It's a small town and the word travels fast, and they don't want to say something that's going to go back to the wrong people and cause trouble. I don't know. I can't say that I really get it, but I guess I have no idea what it's like to live in a place like that. Maybe they're also trying to keep room for some more old-fashioned village justice or something like that, perhaps. But there is a bit of good news. Just last year, it was in 2021, a new search warrant was issued on the case, and a detective working on it said that he really wanted the public to know that the case is still open and active, and everyone is hopeful that they will get this big breakthrough soon. So let's keep our fingers crossed, and who knows, maybe we'll have to do another episode where we do an update when more information comes out. But what do you guys think happened? I obviously have my own theory, and in no way should be taken as anything but speculation. But my idea is that they got in a car accident while driving on that road. Just something happened. Maybe they hit a ditch and the car rolled and Molly and Colton got thrown out of the vehicle. That would explain why Colton was in a ditch coughing up blood, because you don't just start coughing up blood from breaking an ankle, and he could have had a lot more injuries, which was why he couldn't climb out of that ditch and telling his friends where he was. He was confused. He could have had a head injury. But was Molly hurt? I don't know. And I think Molly could have either been in shock or had a head injury or something. That's why she couldn't figure out where she was and said that she was in a field when she was actually standing on the road, according to GPS. And Con was the driver. Maybe when he came to and realized that Colton was seriously wounded and wasn't going to make it, or maybe even had already died, he knew he was going to get into serious trouble, so Con called his cousin to help him out of it, and that includes Molly and Colton. So he calls the sheriff, come over and take care of my mess, which included Molly and Colton. You know what? Do you hear what I'm saying here? Like, maybe they did a little bit of cleanup work so he wouldn't get in trouble. Because how do they just disappear? Like, zilch, gone. And they're making phone calls until 10 a.m. the next morning. It makes absolutely no sense. Maybe between them, they hid Colt's body and found Molly, and she'd either died or they killed her to stop her from talking. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. Maybe she figured out where she was and called Con to see where he was, and he told her he was on his way to pick them up, and then he did what he did to keep himself out of trouble. Again, a complete total theory, and I'm not saying that's what happened, just that I think it is a possibility. Maybe something totally different happened, and Colt and Molly just ran into the wrong people in the woods. We'll just have to wait and find out. Of course, there's still that chance that both of them are out there somewhere. I know both law enforcement and Molly's family believe that Molly is indeed dead, but Con had a young son, so I feel like we would have to hold on to hope until we're told to stop. Molly is half Caucasian, half Native American woman who had dyed black hair at the time of her disappearance. Her hair is naturally brown, and she has blue eyes and a piercing in her lower lip on the right side. She also had a star tattoo on her hip, and Colt as we already talked about, had a bit of what he looks like, you know, the tattoos, ride or die on his chest, but he had a lot of tattoos. He had a banner across his chest, you know, the ride or die, but he also had the letters CMFH on his forearm and a Colt 45 gun on his abdomen. So reach out to your local authorities if you see someone who matches that description, and collect some moolah for doing the right thing as a bonus. Hopefully we'll get more answers, but until then, that's pretty much all we have. Please let me know your thoughts of what happened in the comment section down below. I want to thank all of you for stopping by and watching this video with me here today. Let's leave a yellow heart for Molly and Colton, their family. The unknown must be exhausting. I really hope they get answers. Just me covering this case, I'm exhausted. It's just so many unanswered. Nothing adds up. Nothing makes sense. Ugh. Thanks to all my channel members and my Patreons who continue to support me. If you would like early access to new videos and decide the cases I cover next, you can do so by clicking the join button from your desktop, or there's a video in the description box on how to do it from your phone. Well, if you have made it to the end, you are a rock star, and I love you to death. There are more true crime cases in my Crimey Cases playlist if you'd like to check them out. Stay safe, my loves, and remember, if you see something, say something. Bye.